Thank you for joining us. Please like and subscribe on YouTube. Follow us on Facebook and Instagram. And for more information about this show and the rest of Chor Leoni's season, visit chorleoni.org and subscribe to our newsletter, The eRoar. This episode of Chor Leoni Inside is sponsored by longtime choir member David Love.
They say it's all right. They say it's all right. Say it's all right. Have a good time, 'cause it's all right.
Hello and welcome to Chor Leoni Inside. My name is Erick Light. I am the artistic director of Chor Leoni Men's Choir in Vancouver, British Columbia, and so happy to have you here. Our guest this week is our composer in residence, our very first composer in residence, Zachary Wadsworth. And I want to get right into playing music by him that was the very first piece that he wrote for Chor Leoni. It was a rather extraordinary project. It was, Chor Leoni, as many of you know, has held Remembrance Day very dear into its concert life for 29 years. And always does a Remembrance Day concert. And when we were coming up on the 100th anniversary of the Armistice, I felt like we needed to do something very, very special. So I reached out to one of my favorite people and collaborators, Peter Rothstein, who's a director and playwright in the Twin Cities, and with whom I've created the work All Is Calm, The Christmas Truce of 1914. And knowing the relationship that Peter and I had regarding World War I, and so that we shared a similar aesthetic on how to tell this story, I approached him to help create the libretto. So he and I poured through lots and lots and lots of poetry, World War I poetry, and created a libretto that we then presented to Zachary Wadsworth, our composer in residence. And Zachary took this work and scored it for Chor Leoni, so for male choir, two soloists, soprano and tenor soloists, which in this case was the brilliant Lawrence Williford and Arwen Myers. For string quartet, here we had the amazing Borealis string quartet and two percussionists. And the work was then premiered on the 100th anniversary of the Armistice, and we recorded it, released it, and actually got nominated for a JUNO award. So it was lovely to be recognized in this way. And what you're going to hear right now is the finale to the work. It is a movement that Zachary has entitled To the End. And this is the finale to When There Is Peace, an Armistice Oratorio by Zachary Wadsworth.
Amen.
That was To the End, the finale from When There Is Peace, an Armistice Oratorio written for the 100th anniversary of the World War I armistice. And I am so privileged to have with me a good friend and colleague, Zachary Wadsworth. Hello, Zachary.
Hello, Eric. Thanks for having me.
Oh, gosh, that piece. I can't make it through it. I've lived with that piece for so long, but it's so heartfelt. And before we get into a little bit about your background, just as people have just heard this work, tell us a little bit about your side of the creation of that oratorio for a very momentous anniversary, I think.
Yeah, it was such a meaningful one. It was an amazing collaboration, I think, with you, with all your work on the libretto, with Peter Rothstein's work on the libretto, interacting with Lance and Arwen, the soloists, with the string quartet. I mean, it was a real, the cliche, it takes a village. I guess it's not a cliche. It's just something that
true.
Quentin said, right? In music, this really felt this way. I mean, this piece was such an audacious piece, I think, in so many ways.
Yeah.
It needed to be big and long.
It also could have gone very wrong, and it could have taken some wrong turns for what it was trying to be or what it is about. Yeah.
Right. Well, and I think that was on our mind from the very beginning, right? It we were constantly shooting down this or that idea just because it seemed like it's an impossibly huge topic, right? And the ways to do it wrong are lurking around every corner, and so I think. I remember the first time you and Peter presented me with this ending, this idea for an ending, this little glimmer of a reminder that we get at the end that this is not the war to end all wars. I was so blown away by the text design there, and then in a way my job becomes easy. It's to provide comfort and to provide optimism, but also to remind the audience something they already know, which is that war has not ended and that people have not been great to each other in the intervening century.
Yeah, and it was just so satisfying to Peter and I worked so hard on that libretto, and then when the first drafts came back from you, I was just totally blown away that you took what was sort of there, just a skeleton, and it just became this whole world. And it's still one of the greatest projects I've ever been a part of. So I just publicly again want to thank you for all of this. Folks may not know you. Our audience here has gotten to hear your work quite a bit, but give us the Reader's Digest version of your bio here. How have you become a composer?
I am a American Canadian, a dual citizen, and I grew up in Richmond, Virginia, and in college started composing a bit of vocal music because I have a background as a choral singer, and suddenly composing made a lot more sense when I started writing for choirs and for singers, and I started realizing, oh right, this is something I know because I've sung in choirs and have sung, and so I've really, I think, found some of my most enjoyable projects in the vocal realm, in working with other singers and working in this area that, there are a lot of vocal composers out there, but I think it's not the most common area in which to be working as a composer. And so my life has led me to this place that I love, which is working on these big, amazing, meaningful pieces that involve text and singing and history and stories. And so that's, I think, really the essential thing about me as a composer is I love working with these materials, with poems of the past, letters, and history.
And it turns out you're really good at it too. I mean, I'm wondering where that chicken and egg thing happens of I actually like this. I was a choral singer, in my day, and that you actually have some facility on that. Is that just a happy coincidence that that seems to be working for you, and you are writing a lot? I mean, probably, I would say a lot of choral works in comparison with You certainly write other things, but
definitely a
yeah.
majority choral works. Yeah. No, well, thanks for the flattering question. It's it is, I think, definitely. I think singers understand good text setting innately, right? And choral conductors, singers, you just know when a word has been set well. And so that's, in so many ways, if you're singing in choirs, you've already done a lot of the preparation to become a choral composer. But then on top of that, I think it's also one thing that came to me through listening to a ton of music during school, things that sometimes I didn't like at all, but could still learn from, is that I really think good choral and vocal music they add value, if that makes sense, to the words, right? It's not a setting of the text. It's an interpretation of the text. It adds a layer of meaning. Yeah. Because I think sometimes, if you set a text literally, every word is going to be a different idea and it's going to be a jumble. But B, sometimes you might miss what becomes of a text when it's sung, which is a different thing than reading it or reading it aloud or on the page. So I think pushing through the literal into a world where you can provide a little bit of extra under meaning to a poem. Sometimes setting a poem as ironically distanced or as not kind of landing the way you might expect from reading the poem. That's, I think, where I really love to explore as a creative type person.
And it is a wholly unnatural venture having 60 to 100 people all say the same thing through singing a text, right? That's just not how the poet probably ever thought of what they were doing and all the rest of it. But I think there's also a great power there in that communal sharing of language and text, yes?
Yeah, it comes through so directly. And especially in a group like Chor Leoni, where you can have like the softest softs and the loudest louds and just this incredible range of sounds, and for a men's chorus to have these super high notes, super low notes, every word can be painted in a different color, in a way that it just wouldn't have been on the page. I mean, do you find this when you're working with composers selecting texts? Like there just are certain poems that wouldn't work as choral music, right?
Yes, absolutely. And there's so much poetry that I love that I wouldn't necessarily first choose to put forward to a composer. Although I'm more and more blown away at the work I'm seeing from some people on the way that they're able to take prose and those sorts of things and make it work for choirs. Like that is, I find that now kind of really, really, really exciting. So the possibilities are certainly out there. And I think like everything, we're just, if we have open ears and open hearts, we can keep learning from folks. I want to get into playing some more of your music, and I want to play a bit of a work called Spire and Shadow. Could you please set up what we're going to hear here?
Yeah, Spire and Shadow is a big long piece. It's about 85 minutes long for chorus and chamber orchestra and soloists. It was commissioned by the Church of Trinity Wall Street in New York City. On the occasion of the 250th anniversary of the dedication of their chapel building, which is a building that was immediately next door to the World Trade Center and survived basically.
We all saw pictures of it around that, right. and the things posted on the gates, and it's an incredible place,
an incredible space, and I mean, actually, like When There Is Peace, like Spire and Shadow was one of these kind of impossible commissions. It's like basically celebrate the age of this building by telling the story of New York City over that time, over 250 years.
Go.
Yeah, exactly, and so. The piece was never going to actually tell that entire story. It's just, picking up little snippets from times in the city and imagining, the great procession of time and people down Broadway past this building. And so this movement is a setting of a Walt Whitman text that takes place right after the Civil War, where Whitman is imagining a future where science and democracy rule and cause a better society. So it seemed very, very meaningful, obviously, right now.
Gee, I wonder why we chose that one. Yeah.
Yeah, I can't imagine. And there's this amazing bit of this text that I just want to read first. It's just when it says, "Democracy rests finally upon us," and that is such a meaningful line. And I think, so that's really what this piece is about. It's about democracy and about optimism, I guess.
Well, this is a wonderful work, sung in a wonderful building. This is an excerpt from Spire and Shadow, composer Zachary Wadsworth. That was an excerpt from a larger piece, Spire and Shadow, by my friend and composer Zachary Wadsworth. That's just such a wonderful text, a wonderful setting of it. Just thank you for sharing that. That's beautiful.
Thank you. Yeah,
I'm wondering, and when we talked a little bit in our Further Inside episode, which, let's be frank here, folks, we shoot that before we do this one, so we get the waters warmed up before we come to you with our regular Inside program. But I'm wondering to you, and I've asked a lot of composers this question: do you think that choirs, writing for a choir, has unique expressive possibilities versus maybe other genres of vocal music, whether that's art song or oratorio, opera, etc.? What are there special qualities for a choir? Are there things that you don't think that they should do? Or you think that there's things that we should be exploring more?
Wow, that's an amazing question. Yeah, I do. I mean, I think, so what's the strength of a song or of an art song? It's plumbing the absolute depths of individual experience, right? But I think for a choir piece, more than any other thing, you can really explore the deepest questions of collective experience, right? You can, that's why.
That is what the art form is, yeah.
Right, and thinking about, like, in When There Is Peace, thinking about a peace after a monstrous war, or in Spire and Shadow there, democracy and the importance of good leadership and care and science and equality. I think these are the themes that strike me in choral music. There can be good choral music about things like love, or obviously just like the individually experienced emotions. But I've always been drawn to the kind of deeper, bigger, more collective questions in choral music texts. And I think for that reason, I think that there can be a really more variety in texts moving forward. And I share your excitement that people are starting to explore outside that. You get people, people all over the map. Caroline Shaw, setting data about human migration in a choral piece, in a really moving choral piece, or texts found online or generated online. I think there's a lot of interesting stuff out there that hasn't been done yet, definitely, for choral musicians.
For sure, and I love that. I feel like choral music has its wheelhouse, but again, the possibilities are and the avenues it can go down. We haven't even begun to tap in many ways creatively. I want to play another piece for folks. Come to the Road, and this was one that has a little bit of Canadian roots in it in this performance. Can you set this up for us and how this work came to be, what it means to you?
Absolutely. This performance is indeed, it's by the National Youth Choir of Canada, directed by Timothy Shantz. And but the piece was written in Canada when I was living in Calgary, but it was written for an American commissioner. It was commissioned by Cornell University, the University in Ithaca, New York, in 2013 for their commencement celebration. So it's a graduation piece, and in that sense, I think ties into this idea of the choir as expressing the collective experience. It's an amazing and wonderful text by Paul Laurence Dunbar, the great American poet. And it's a text that is saying, now's the time to leave college and to go out to the road and to live an exciting life together. And we were, John Rawl, who commissioned this piece, and I were looking for poems about graduations that weren't kind of cheesy.
Talking about pitfalls, yeah.
Right. Well, and just not like sad, because I understand the sadness sometimes when graduating, you're saying goodbye to a lot of things, but we thought this shouldn't be morose, right? This is a happy day. This is the beginning. It's commencement. Mm-hmm. So anyway, so we
didn't set all the places you'll go.
Yes, it came up.
Yeah. You couldn't get the rights, probably.
No, that's right. So no, but this is a poem about putting the knapsack over your shoulder and walking out down the road away from the place. So.
Oh, fantastic. And I just love his poetry. There's so many amazing poems, and a lot of them been set to music. So let's hear this. This is Timothy Shantz, our friend here in Canada, with the National Youth Choir of Canada, singing Zachary Wadsworth's Come to the Road. That was Come to the Road, music by Zachary Wadsworth, our friend Timothy Shantz, conducting the National Youth Choir of Canada. And what a lovely, lovely piece. I wish they would have sung that at my graduation. I'm pretty sure it would have been better than whatever we sang. I don't remember what it was.
Yeah, I don't remember either.
Thankfully, Rent had not come out yet, so it wasn't 525,600 minutes. So
I do remember Pomp and Circumstance at mine, played by the band. So
on a loop, if I remember right. Yes. Yeah.
Perpetual motion. Yeah.
I want to talk to you a little bit about, you have been for now the past few seasons our very first composer in residence. And in our Further Inside, we talked quite a bit about, what it means to be a composer, what that life is like, what the work is like, how you work with other groups. But I think a composer in residence is a very a little bit different beast in that we get to really forge a bit longer term relationship. First of all, have you been a composer in residence before? How did you find the experience? You can tell me honestly in front of everyone and embarrass me for how awful I was. But what has this been for you, and what are the possibilities, opportunities in this relationship?
It's been an amazing experience, of course, and I have been a composer in residence before and in an ongoing way with a summer festival in the States called the Stanton Music Festival. What I love about being a composer in residence with any organization, and it's been Stanton and Chor Leoni so far, is the ongoing relationship means that conversations after the premiere of one piece can lead to a later piece at a later time, right? So, at the beer place after the premiere of When There Is Peace, I was chatting with members of the choir and their partners about what texts should be doing and what we should be talking about and singing about when we set texts. Right. Oh, sorry, we've got fire people going by. Anyway, yeah, urban life. But so these conversations can leak into the music for next season, right? And I love that so much. And also, I just think that it's a shame that in so many commissions, you only really learn how to write a great piece for someone once you've done it wrong once.
You know what? Oh, I wouldn't do that again. Yeah.
Yeah. And so, I mean, I think you've been so incredible about workshopping things with me and sending them back and saying, maybe this or that could change. And that's something people are sometimes afraid to do, but I don't think they should be. This should be a conversation. And so I think that's one of the greatest experiences, to be able to feel like you're part of the musical community. Yes, you're a composer and you have to go away and you have to write music on your own. You're not
with us every week at rehearsal and that sort of thing.
But the creative process, the big picture stuff, and the micro picture stuff is informed by knowing the people and by knowing what their interests are thematically, vocally, performance-wise. It's such an amazing relationship to have with the
Yeah, there's one piece that you wrote in particular that I didn't have a great video for, so to share here wouldn't work. But you did a set called Future Folk Songs, and if you could just really briefly kind of give us like what that was. This is one where I said I just want a piece for the spring. I had no agenda, and you came back with, I think, one of the most remarkable pieces I've really ever done. Could you just give us a little bit of the background of that piece? Because I think it is just such an extraordinary idea done so well.
Oh, thanks. Well, yeah, the idea of future folk songs is just what might people sing folk songs about in the future. That was the jumping off point. And it emerged actually exactly out of this conversation I was describing at the beer place after When There Is Peace, that they were just saying, why aren't we singing? I was having a great conversation with Stash, actually, who was saying, like, why aren't we singing about climate change, for example? Why aren't we singing about like these things that all of us have at all times strapped to our bodies? And that was a really wonderful challenge. And this invitation from you that was so open-ended, suddenly I thought, well, maybe this is the time to kind of write about now. And so I thought, well, how do I write about now? Well, maybe I imagine how future people will sing about us back then or now.
Yes.
And so wrote this future folk songs piece there's a love song where two people walk to the top of the mountain as the waters rise behind them. And there's a lullaby to ask the kid to put their phone away and things like this. It was so much fun to write. I also would like to formally apologize because I think you asked me for like a 5-minute thing and then I wrote this like 15-minute thing.
Yeah, and in the planning for rehearsing, you think, okay, I've got a 5-minute thing, and then it's like it expanded, but we're all just like, this is incredible. And I know this is going to be a work that when we get back to regular music making, I just know this is one that we're going to keep in our repertoire for a long time, because not only is it timely, but I also think you hit on some timelessness. And I love the fact that it's there's some definitely entertaining takes on some of these things, like colonizing Mars. I didn't know that I would get to sing a choral work about colonizing Mars, and I was so glad that I did, because it was.
I was going to say, I guess that's what you get for That's what you get for letting my mind run free.
Taking you off the leash, yes. I want to play one more work before we let you go, and this was one that we premiered at last year's Remembrance Day concert, a work called 2-1 Dead. Could you give us a little bit of background on this piece and maybe things we should listen for in it?
Yeah, I think this was the first piece I've ever been asked to write for voices with percussion as well, actually, or just just a simple choral piece with piano and percussion. And that was a wonderful sonic world to live in for this piece. I mean, obviously, compared to colonizing Mars and singing about cell phones, the topic of this text is obviously more somber. It's a Remembrance Day text. It's very inward looking. But I wanted to find a sense of beauty. The text has these moments of warmth, and I think that comes through so well in Chor Leoni's voices. But then in the background, this lurking kind of darkness of death that we hear in the bass drum and these kind of hollow percussion sounds.
Very shadowy, very very dark, and it all sort of looms in the distance, I feel. I have to say, I picked this right now because I'm sort of feeling it at the moment right now, and returning to this work after having not really done it since last year, it quite hit home to me, because I think we're all experiencing a little bit of grief in this world, and this was I felt a wonderful place to find sort of commiseration in that feeling. So. Yeah.
It's wonderful. Yeah.
I want to thank you so much for being with us. It's just always a joy to talk with you. It's even more of a joy to present and sing your works. And I just want to thank you publicly for all that you've done for Chor Leoni and for being on the show.
Thank you so much, Eric. It's just been a joy from day one.
Thanks. This is 2-1 Dead, music by Zachary Wadsworth, sung by Chor Leoni Men's Choir. That was To One Dead, written by Zachary Wadsworth, our composer in residence. And Chor Leoni has been engaging in another work by Zachary that he has written specifically for us here in COVID times as a part of a really interesting project we are about to embark upon called Translucence, which is going to be an immersive multi-channel sound and lighting installation that we're presenting here in Vancouver for the holidays. The idea of it is that because we couldn't have all the choir together, Zachary wrote a work in 4 separate choirs, and we recorded all of those pieces separately, and then through the magic of my editing on my digital audio workstation, was able to put all of this together. And to talk a little bit about like this process and how we're making this, I want to bring in our producer, Phil Jack. Oh, Phil.
Hello, Eric.
Hi there. How are you doing?
Well, it's a scary, confusing time, but we're good. We're good.
It is a scary time. I completely agree with you. I feel very fortunate that we've been having so many creative outlets. I think you and I have been personally staying very, very busy. But one of the things you've been up to is singing in the choir for this work called Ring Out that Zachary has done, which has been a unique sort of COVID times recording project, recording the groups in separate ways, and the piece designed for these separate choirs. Can you speak a little bit about like how this has been to be a choir singer in this weird time that we're all living in?
I think there's an expectation, a sort of standard practice in audio recording where you record your parts separately. Normally, you record your tracks separately, at least with pop music recording, and that's completely alien to the choral singer, where we never perform our parts separately because we're a choir.
Together, it's always about together, right?
Yeah, so I think it's a pretty significant learning experience for everyone in the choir. Like, we might rehearse parts isolated, but we never perform without being able to hear the other parts in a piece of music.
Yeah. And it was still ensemble singing that we recorded. It wasn't just like sing to your laptop or, sort of the virtual choir thing. But as you say, it is sort of anathema, I think, to like what we sort of prize and sort of value in the experience that we have as a collective, as a group, singing together.
Yeah, and I think at the same time, this has been a creatively empowering experience because of the tools, which gives us a certain flexibility, a certain control. Well, us, you have the control that you would not otherwise have. And it's kind of unprecedented in our experience.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I want to thank you for just sharing a little bit of your thoughts on this. Thanks for putting together a great show, as always, all those beautiful videos. I want to thank all of you for watching. Those of you here in the Vancouver area, Translucence, this immersive sound and light experience, will be going live on December 4th through December 23rd. It's all designed to be COVID safe, only 45 people in the room at a time in a very massive space. But I think it's going to be a way for you to hear choral singing and to experience something shared together in a safe way, in a way that a lot of other things we're not going to be able to do at this time of year that we like to get together. So I hope you can join us. Thank you all, and we will see you next time.
Thank you, everyone. Get your tickets to Translucence.
They say it's all right. They say it's all right. Say it's all right. Have a good time. 'Cause it's all right. Whoa, it's all right. Now we gonna move it slow. Up in the lights are low.